Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lucas's Call Out School. I used to pride myself so much on being a cam god when it came to Rainbow Six Siege and giving out some of the greatest callouts known to mankind to keep us to keep us winning certain games. And I was 14 in middle school, and now I have a better understanding of how games work and how words work. So now I wanted to run a quick tutorial for people who have a hard time understanding what people are like spewing whenever we're in the middle of a match or something, and they start yelling random shit like Hawkeye on height pushing, they're running a dive comp, let's push, let's blah blah blah, XYZ, like random shit. So first thing I want to do is that I feel like everyone needs to have like a really good understanding of the way that the different comps and team shooters work, because this is really what it's really mainly what this is for, is like team shooter call outs and stuff. But the three different types of like comps that you could play are poke comps, brawl comps, and dive comps. So brawl could also be renamed to like rush. A lot of people call it rush comps, but I'm gonna call it brawl comp. So a poke comp is basically you're just gonna want to poke the enemy slowly and just kind of slowly chip away at their health as like. And I'm gonna talk about this from the perspective of a tank, because that is how I play most of the time, but this goes for all the different characters that like this is what you're supposed to do if you're playing a poke support or as poke DPS or whatever it is that'll like help your poke tank. But a poke character would kind of hang out closer to the team as like a protector and then slowly chip away health at the enemy team and allow their DPS to go in and do the final blows. But they'll take like a lot of the initial damage off of the people by just like slowly chipping away at their health, constantly doing damage, but not like a lot necessarily. Just over time it will grow. A good poke character in my eyes, like I feel like if I'm thinking in Marvel Rivals perspective, is like Magneto. Magneto is a good poke character. I feel like because he has his shield, he's got like a very good primary fire that can do that. Very similar to Sigma, who's also a poke character. He has his right click that will keep people away and allow you to stay like being a poke and stay back with your team. He's got a very good way to protect his teammates and himself with his other shield that allows him to charge his right click. I feel like he's a solid poke character, and poke characters in my eyes, counter brawl people. So if the enemy team is running a mean brawl comp, swapping to a poke comp could be very beneficial. The next thing is brawl or rush comps, which are usually like when people play in your face and they take the fight to them. They play like in Marvel Rivals, I would say like Thor is a good brawl character. I think honestly, Doctor Strange is kind of a good brawl character. Someone like Penny Parker would be more poke because she's just doing slow damage over time. She doesn't really have a lot of good up close and in your face like attacks or stuff. So I could say, but I would also say Strange kind of goes for both of these roles. I'd say he could be a poke character or he could be a brawl character. The same goes for Hulk. I feel like, and I'll get to dive in a second, but I feel like Hulk could be is both a dive character and a brawl character for sure. He can get in their face and do a lot of that stuff, but then he also has a very good way of getting out. And if you pair these two together, you can have Strange play poke and Hulk play dive, and then they get a combo, and it's very very nice. But brawl characters will bring the fight to them. They'll take a brunt of a lot of the damage to themselves, because they'll also be putting out a lot of the damage, and like the just like the fight, a lot of it is it's happening to them on their terms. So another character for that's not like Marvel Rivals would be Reinhardt. Reinhardt is a great brawl character. That's why it's also called Rush. He allows good distance. He can push distance in between people very easily. Brawl characters will take their fight to the person and create distance and allow their team to push up and now have the advantage of the map. So that's like a good way to play it. For dive characters, it's kind of the opposite. They let the rest of their team stay back on the point, and they go out themselves and will focus on flankers and people who are alone and take them out one by one slowly until you have enough of a team depleted where the rest of the fight becomes easier for everybody to do it together and you can take them all out. So I say Hulk is a dive character as well as a brawl character, because he has a great ability that allows him to jump, and like a shield that allow him to take like reduce damage whenever it first happens, like big damage and stuff. So he could take out people that are on the high ground up here while he's down here by jumping, and before they could get away, he could like body block them off at the top. And then also if he starts to take any damage, let's say he's up there too and he jumped up and he's starting to lose because like another support's coming in, he could jump right the fuck back out. He's like very good like that. And that's like Diva is another dive character. Thor is also kind of, I would say, a brawl and dive, but Another good example of a dive character would be Captain America. Captain America is definitely a dive. He goes in whenever he like and finds like a person separated. He could do a little damage to them, and then he runs the fuck out of there. And then if he can jump right back in and get the kill too if they're still separated. Sometimes he kind of plays a little bit like a poke, the way he can't always get finishing kills. But if he's not the only tank on your team, it can be very very beneficial. Like if you have a Cap and a Thor, you can have your Thor play Brawl and your Cap play dive, or both of them could dive and then like have faith in your DPS and go for it. But it's all very situational. But this is at least like the general thought process behind these three different comps. Yeah, I think poke counters Brawl because Brawl characters can push up and like die, and the poke characters will slowly chip them away and kind of keep them back and stop them from getting too close into your face. Like and like as they're slowly taking damage, they keep pushing forward or something. They might not notice how much damage they're really taking, and that's how I feel like a Hulk pushes a Magneto. Magneto can use his pin and take Hulk right back to where the rest of his team is, and then Hulk's like now too far away to do any damage with just his fists. It kind of counters it a little bit. I think so I think this goes to here. I think poke counters Brawl. I think Brawl counters dive, because if you have a tank like Cap leaving the rest of their team, if you had like someone push the rest of their team like Doctor Strange, like with a shield and stuff, then you are immediately at a disadvantage, because you've got now like a bunch of people who are willing to fight you right there and like right there right now, and you're without a tank because they're off like fighting fucking Cloak and Dagger or some shit, and like then you get like kind of screwed over. But dive, I also feel like counters poke in the same sense that if there are people that are sitting back here and they're poking around and you've got two people coming up into the fight, if you're playing Venom and you dive these guys, you could take out like a support or a DPS or something, force them to fall back, and now they're down a player. And you kind of, and then once you're like that, you can do it again. They start to, we're backing up, we're down a player, this person tries to get behind a wall, you see it, you dive them, boom, now they're down another player. Now they're back to 4 or whatever it is. And like, that, I feel like that's, at least in my eyes, I see it as like a rock, paper, scissors type thing. Poke counters Brawl, Brawl counters dive, dive counters poke. And once you kind of have that gist of it, you can start to recognize the way teams play, like your team and the enemy team. And you could see, they're running like Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Magneto, Doctor Strange, Luna Snow Mantis. That's definitely like a poke comp. They're sitting in the back behind his shield. Hawkeye and Magneto are just kind of poking you. Winter Soldier can get kind of in there. Luna Snow can provide a little bit of like up close healing with her mobility, and Winter Soldier can do some good damage at close range and get some punches in, build up his ult. Like that's a fairly good poke comp. Like that kind of thing. And once you recognize that, you can see, okay, well, if they're doing that, I'm going to go dive and I'm going to separate their Luna Snow from their Bucky. And then once that's done, you can take their Bucky out. And then now what? Now they have 4 people and you have 6 and they're down 2, and you can push them a little bit farther, because the idea of losing a brawl by being pushed back is not as scary because they're down 4 players. You have like a better advantage at that point. So once you kind of get that and you get the gist of it and you feel this kind of rock, paper, scissors dynamic the 3 comps have, and you can start to recognize the stuff, it feels a lot easier to understand the game moving forward. So the next thing I wanted to go over was like giving call outs for certain fights and stuff, and how to properly like give good call outs, and how to like to actually help your team and do stuff. So if you're this team right here, you're the red team, and you're playing against these people, and let's say these big guys, these big circles are their tanks, and the rest of them are DPS and supports. Let's say this guy starts to kind of push over here, and he's trying to get a little pick out in the back. If one of you guys notice it, you call whoever this is, let's just say it's like fucking Wolverine. You say Wolverine flanking. And then you say, well, flanking where? That's not like good enough of a call out, because then people will be looking fucking everywhere but here. They could be looking directly behind them. They could be looking to their left, their right, whatever. So make sure that you're giving call outs on the perspective of the majority of your team. So if you're right here and they're pushing on your right, you're gonna say they're pushing right. But let's say you're over here and you're kind of looking at them from this angle. He's definitely on your left, but your team is not going to give you that like, oh, well, he said left, but it's his left, so it's our right. So just be prepared for that and say on your right, and like give them that call out, because then it's easier for them to be able to just turn right and see that there's a Wolverine flanking and he's trying to like get a pick off. Another thing that I notice is people don't like to play high ground the way that a lot of times you're supposed to. And this not just in the sense that like you need to take high ground, but in another sense too, like with their team as well. But like, so So imagine this is elevated stuff. This is high ground as well, like up here. Um, Basically you're going to want to take the high ground as soon as you can because you've got a better angle on everybody in like no matter what kind of high ground you are. Like obviously this is the way perspective works. If I'm on high ground right here, I can look straight down, I can look all the way back here, I could look all the way down here, and I'd have a good angle from top down on somebody where I'd be able to see their head first, and it'd be a good shot to be able to shoot there and like do that. Versus if I'm below them, I have a decent angle right here, but if they back up, I can't see them anymore the way perspective works. And if I get too close, I also can't really see them unless I want to look straight up at them. And even then, that's even less of like a distance they would have to back up to be like not for me to not be able to see them. They would only have to back up a little bit, and then all of a sudden I'm out of their sight unless I wanted to back up too, and then I'm back out in the open. So having high ground is always like a benefit in a lot of things, and the only time that it's difficult to say to get off high ground and say you need to get off high ground is if your supports can't see you, because this whole thing that I was just showing with like not being able to see or whatever, like that goes exactly the same for your team as well. If I'm a DPS and I'm up on high ground right here and I'm low as fuck and I start backing up this way, but my teammate who's trying to heal me is right here, he's not going to be able to fucking see me. If that's the case, let's say this Wolverine pushes up and he's diving me and I'm standing up here, I'm not going to want to back up into the corner. I'm just going to want to drop and get near my supports, because then if he wants to push me, he's got to push me into my team, and then it's like way more less of a fight that he would be able to win, like way less likely that he'd be able to win that fight. So high ground is incredibly important to play when it comes to these team games, but it's also really, you have to know at least like where your team, how well can your team see you as well, because like it's very difficult as like a Mantis or a Luna Snow trying to hit somebody on high ground who's constantly kind of like running away from you, versus like if you're playing Jeff, who can shoot some bubbles up there, or Cloak and Dagger, who has the tracking healing. So if you're gonna play like a safe high ground and not want to drop, make sure that you're playing with characters who can still heal you from there, because other times it can be really annoying as a support trying to heal DPS who are running away from you, or tanks too for that matter. It can be really difficult. Another thing too that I just wanted to mention was a lot of people will just call high ground height. They'll just say like, oh, he's got height, and they'll just say that they're on height right now, like Hawkeye on height, watch, like be careful. Or like, yeah, like another thing too, Hawkeye on height, care. That's a Colin core thing. Colin loves to just say care, be careful. It's like be careful of of that character and what they can do, because if this is let's say a Hawkeye's up here, they've got such good angles on everything, and you would never want to like push them from all the way back here, because you've got so much distance to cover before you can finally get close to them, and that gives them ample opportunity to fire and fire and fire and fire and fire. And as soon as you get kind of close, they're still on the high ground, and they're still in a better position because they had all this time to be able to back the fuck up and get out of there. So it's like very difficult to deal with that, and that's where like the dive comps come in, where you can have like 2 or 3 people like stay back, and then like 1 or 2 go over and push them, because then the Hawkeye is at least a little bit of a disadvantage. And if you push them back into their team, you don't have to push them any farther. You at least got them off the high ground, which is something that allow your team to again then push in. But another big thing that you have to look out for is not just high ground, it's things like long hallways. Like if this is what a corner looked like and there was a Hawkeye kind of peeking around this corner and I was Wolverine walking, I do not have like good enough mobility. Like let's say my cooldowns are off, I do not have like a good enough mobility or long range to be able to peek this corner and confidently say I can dodge the fucking Hawkeye bullets until I get to him. Because he's just out of benefit in this scenario. I don't have long range, and he's got the perfect long range weapon. But that goes for a lot of other characters. Like I wouldn't really want to be pushing a Punisher if there was a long hallway in between us, or if there was some sort of long gap of like space that I have to push. If that's the case, and you're playing a character that can't do that, just find a side way, like find the flank. That's where you're looking for. But if you're flanking, let your team know. That way they're not like, where's the rest of my team? Be like, I'm gonna go try to dive, blah blah blah, and then they will also divert some of their attention to you doing that. So if you say later this person's low or this person's at half, they will help you because they knew where you were, they knew what you were doing. I don't even know where I left off. I just got kind of distracted, but I'm just gonna pick up where my brain wanted to pick up. So I know I mentioned this. I mentioned taking care, Colin's word for care, the height instead of high ground. But another big thing that I wanted to like bring attention to was like health callouts. I feel like health callouts could be 150 times better than they are currently. So if I have, I'm just gonna give 3 health bars. These are crazy health bars, but I'm just gonna give 3 of them. And I'm going to give an example. Jesus Christ. There we go. Let's say this person's at this much health. This person's at this much health. And this person's at this much health. So if I am shooting somebody or whatever and I take down this much of their health, I genuinely probably won't even give you a call out for that, because that's basically no health removed, and they could be healed by that with like one healing from any character. So I would just not even give a call out, because even if they are hit, it's not enough to be like I'd want to push that. This, however, if I took out half for someone's health, or like at least like this much of their health, or even a little bit less than this, and they're this low, I would just straight up, I'd say they're half. I'd call out whoever it is, and I'd be like, this person's half. Because half HP is a good call out to give, because that'll allow some people to push forward, because this person now has to play a little bit safer than normal. So it'll allow you to close the distance a little bit if you give the call out. And it's better to just say half, even if they're lower than half, because if you try to say like, oh, they're low HP and they happen to get healed and they go back up to half, then your team's now they're the ones with the wrong information. They thought they were lower than they actually were. So no matter how low they are, unless they're like super duper down to their health bar, I would just if they're a little bit below halfway, just call them half and overestimate how much health they have, because it's better to do that than to underestimate it and fuck yourself over. And for this, a lot of people would just straight up say one. They're one shot. They're one hit. They're low as fuck. Dude, don't even say that. Just say they can die, because they can. They totally can die. And that's like kind of all that matters. It's not like if they're at low HP, they could get healed. They could also die. But like if you say they can die, then a lot of people will take that they can and be like, well, they totally will, and they'll go push that person. It's the same kind of thing for this, where it gives your team the advantage of being like, they're not dead yet, they're not one shot. It's not like you can super easily kill them, and even if you could, it's better to say just they can die rather than be like they're one hit, because if they turn around and get a health pack and you don't see that, you're fucked. I literally just watched a game playing last night. I was watching Flats play, and he was playing against like some Doctor Strange, and one of his teammates calls him. He goes, Doctor Strange is a true one. Doctor Strange is true one. And he's looking at the Doctor Strange in the fight, and he is at literally this much health. Like, that is such a bad fucking call out, like, genuinely, because then Flats pushed him thinking he could get the kill off, and he was just not right. It was not ready. He like separated himself from the team for no reason. So overestimate your overestimate your enemy's health, and make sure your teammates are actually getting good call outs when they're doing stuff like this, or when you're like doing this, because it could genuinely screw yourself over if you're giving people the wrong call outs. Like if you start telling people that are this low that they're one, or that they're one shot, then you get people who start to feel confident that they could kill them and push them, and then they're totally dead. And I've had that happen where someone will tell me this person's low, and I think, well, I have the mobility to be able to push up, but they're not as low as they think they are, and so I put myself in a position that I've now, like, screwed myself over. This person's low, I push up, I could do one hit and kill them, then jump out, but they're not low. They're this low. So if I do one hit, they're still not even dead yet, and then I've now kind of screwed myself by, like, I'm here. This person, let's say this person flanks up. Then they change their mind. They get hit a couple times. They flank back. They run to here. Someone yells, they're one. They're this much health. I jump in. They're now being healed by the supports. They're this much health. And me, I'm alone with the rest of the team. Not a good fucking play. However, if they jump in and they say they can die or they're half, then maybe another teammate might hear that and think, well, like, we could kill them if they're that low, and then they might push with me or something. Or we could all focus them to get them from half to one, and then it would be an easier job for me to be able to jump in and hit one shot on them, and then I'd just be able to leave. So giving like health callouts like that and making sure they're actually like semi-accurate to what's actually going on and genuinely beneficial to your team, and not just like random callouts when somebody's low, like actually giving more than just like regular stuff. But that's only like part of it. Another big part of it is just even calling out something to begin with, because like you could say Wolverine's half, but if you never even mentioned that Wolverine was over here in the first place, the rest of your team's going to be like, where? So you see Wolverine flanking, the first thing you do is you say Wolverine flanking, and then you say Wolverine flanking right. So Wolverine flanks right. start paying attention to the right. Let's say he comes in, you do a little bit of damage to him. He's about this HP. Wolverine half. He's running back to his team. Now now your teammate knows that he was flanking, so he was separated. He's low HP and he's running away, which gives you ample opportunity to push and get a pick off. And then the rest of your team's down. The rest of the team's down somebody. You have the advantage. Push forward. XYZ. Blah 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 blah. So. And you should just give callouts all the time. If anyone flanks, there's an Iron Fist in the back. If there's an Iron Man in the back. If there's like a fucking Venom that just dropped on your face. Ping that bitch. Yell at their fucking face. Let everybody know that they're there, even if they can see them with their own two eyes. Because if that's the case, then if you can say it yourself and you say that, then people will recognize that they're actually doing something. That person's like, if Venom drops in and everybody sees Venom, but then you're getting hit by Venom and you start saying Venom on me, people are going to try to save you. Because like, that's just how a lot of the times like they are. Or if I'm a tank and I say Venom on me, y'all are good, then I know that Venom is focusing all of his attention on the tank and that kind of thing, and they have a little bit of opportunity to be able to put some damage into him. So I think that's like a big part of it, is just calling out every single time you see somebody that's doing something weird, like a flanker, or like if you hear a strange portal, call that bitch out. If let's say you're a Bucky main and you see someone playing a little bit awkward, I think they're about to ult, say that shit. I've done it so many times with Jeff, because Jeff players will just kind of swim around right here, and they'll swim around in circles, and they'll try to find like a good group up, and I see them doing weird movements and not healing their team, and I'm like, Jeff's about to ult. So boom, we fucking spread like flies. The most they get is 1 or 2 usually, which is very, very good. Those are great callouts to have. If you can tell when somebody's doing an ult, like do that. Like let them know, let your team know they're like about to ult. So definitely about to ult is gonna be like a good call out to add. Another good one that I think a lot of people like don't do is whenever, like, another good thing that a lot of people need to do more at least is peeling for their supports. So peeling is essentially whenever you are a tank out here or doing something, and let's say they dove your back line, your support's starting to need help. So you peel off from the fight to go help your support. And that's kind of how a lot of it works. So let's say these 4 are all pushed up, and these 2 are pushed up too, but they're definitely taking the brunt of it. But then someone comes back here. One of them will stay up, and the other one will start to peel back a little bit and take out whatever damage is going on in the back and try to help the rest of their team. So when you're a tank, you can't just only ever go in and be the big guy who front lines and takes all the damage and stuff, because your team still needs protection. You're still the one with the most health. A lot of times you're the one with the shield. You're the one with the ability to protect them. Like, you definitely have to learn to peel for your team and recognize when you need to. But you can't always do it on your own, which is where the calling out flankers and like comes in, because if I'm up here and I'm fighting, my attention's focused right here. I'm not going to be able to always turn to my right and randomly out of the corner of my eye see someone flanking on my left or right or whatever it is. So if I'm up here fighting, if there's 2 tanks up here fighting, and then Wolverine flanks in the back, or Iron Fist flanks in the back, and no one gives me the call out for it, and then I turn around to go see why I'm not getting any heals, and I see that my entire team just got bumfucked by fucking Iron Fist. Like, I'm gonna be irritated that I never got a call out, because I would have peeled for everybody. So giving like call outs like that, like just even pinging the flankers, will allow your tanks to do things like peel for you. And then as a tank, if you haven't done it already, you definitely need to learn how to peel for the rest of your team. Learn just the art of patience and backing the fuck out whenever you need to. So it's not always the most beneficial thing to finish a kill yourself. If you get somebody low, it genuinely could be more helpful to just leave them low and get them scared and then go help the rest of your team. If I did a bunch of damage to this guy but somebody's getting like killed back here, I'm not necessarily gonna focus him and ignore the rest of my team, because like, that's a tank. They've got the rest of their team. They still have health packs back here somewhere. They might get healed by it. However, if the tank is over here and they're low, that's like a different story. That's like a good time to kill them and that kind of thing. But if you're like in the middle of a big brawl with a bunch of people and your team starts yelling, I need help, drop it and go help your team, because as a tank, you're supposed to be there to protect them and like do that. Tanks aren't necessarily supposed to be the ones that are getting like a fuck ton of kills or like a shit ton of damage, but they definitely have the ability to do those things. They can go in there and you can put in a fuck ton of damage in his tanks if you're playing it properly and you're playing with your team properly. And you can even get a lot of finishing blows off too if your DPS are working with you the way they're supposed to, and the way that you are supposed to, giving callouts and protecting them and allowing them to put in big damage for you to get the final blow or use your abilities in proper ways to help them in their ults. So the 4 things that I was like, I guess it's actually really 5 because I added flanker too, but the the big like 5 call outs that I was like wanting to see more of and stuff was like people calling out high ground and using high ground properly, people calling for being careful about certain characters pushing, calling out the flankers essentially. Recognizing people's ults is super duper important, and being able to find them. If you main a character, learn to try to see how another person's about to ult. Like, how do you play when you're about to ult, and try to find when someone else is doing that similar. Because that's how I did it with Jeff. I know what I do as Jeff when I try to ult. So when I see another person doing it, my brain goes, they're about to ult. That's what I do when I'm about to ult, and I can call it out. Definitely learning to peel and learning what peeling means as a tank and doing that. And I don't remember what I said here. This is flanker. I can't read. My handwriting's so shite in my house. It looks like plankton. Flanker. Flankers are people who obviously like go off on their own and get certain picks off. And I guess another like side word is pick. Pick is whenever you get a kill right off the bat, or you separate something from their team. And like if you get a kill, that's not necessarily a pick. But if at the start of the match this person dies and now you start the fight with a 6v5, that's totally a fucking pick. If someone's separated and you get this kill right out here and they're not there away from their team and that kind of thing, or like a really good character gets killed right off the bat, a support gets killed right off the bat, that's a really good pick. Like, and a lot of times, and this isn't really that important, but the word pick just gets kind of like thrown in as like a synonym for kill, which it can be, but it's really supposed to be used in specific scenarios, like at the beginning of matches when people die long time before anybody else dies. And it allows you to like stagger them. That's another good word too, honestly, is stagger. That's when let's say this is the spawn room. We've got our tank that dies first, and then he pushes up, and then before they respawn, this person spawns in. Now tank's all the way up here, and this person's still walking up here. Tank dies because he's got no team, and this person's still coming up. Then the rest of the team spawns. Now one by one, everybody's going in. Now the tank's the last one to spawn, and then we all repeat the cycle because everybody's staggered. So you've got like all your times are staggered. So if you are staggered, the best thing to do is to wait for your team. But you could also stagger the enemy team really, really easily. If we kill 5 of them and you've got one person left here, let them run away a little bit and then kill them. Give them like an extra 2 seconds on their cooldown, because then their team's more likely to just push the fuck up and fuck themselves over. So like they're just gonna hold W key and walk forward regardless of who's there. They see a bunch of people behind them, maybe not all the supports, but in one of them they're gonna be like, that's enough for me, and they're gonna go, and then they might die, or they might at least lose 1 or 2 people, and now you're back to having a good pick, because now you're still winning the fight, like 65 or whatever it is. So I mean, like, again, it's not super duper important, and it's not like it's like the most like necessary thing to know. But if you hear people talking about getting a good pick or something, that's usually a sign to push up a little bit, because that means that they're down a player at least, unless you are, of course, and then you guys have to play safely or however it works. But do that. Like a pick is like I don't know, canceling somebody's ult. That's a good pick. Or someone who's about to ult and you do that. You can't say like, oh, that's a good pick. You got their ult out of the way. Right at the beginning of a fight, you get headshot as soon as you walk out. You just got picked off by that fucking Hawkeye or whatever it is. Like that's a good pick for them. And it's like, I don't know, not the most important thing in the world, but it's beneficial to know what the word means because people use it a lot. That's how I felt about like flankers, height, and like all those things. Is it's like these aren't like, you could definitely use other words for it, and it's not the most necessary thing to know the exact definition or whatever it is, but knowing what all these words mean and knowing what these like play styles are genuinely has helped my gameplay like a million times. Like I've like watched videos having it explain it to me, and they're only like 20-minute long videos or something like that, but just those videos giving me the idea of how the game should be played to your benefit and stuff has allowed like so much more that I could do, because now I know how characters play, and I can feel like I can pick up any character, and because I know how like their playstyle works, I know that this person's a brawl character, so I play them like this. Even if I'm not familiar with their abilities, I know how to use them in, like, in what scenarios kind of thing. So it's good to learn this stuff, because with new characters constantly dropping, you're going to want to try new stuff out, and you're going to want to know what to do with each one of the characters, and like this genuinely makes the game more entertaining. It keeps you winning more because you're just having a better communication than the rest of the team. I don't know, like I find it to be one of the most easy ways to improve your gameplay is just by being better at callouts and knowing what characters or what people are saying whenever they're saying like random shit like that. that's kind of all. I guess one last thing to end it off would be just to to really amplify your like ability in the game and ability to give call outs would be to just learn what other characters ults do and learn different roles. If you can learn if you're a DPS main and you can learn tank stuff, then you're gonna be an extreme help against tanks whenever you're playing. So, and the same thing goes for if you're a tank main and you're playing DPS and the other person tank. You say like I play a bunch of Hulk. So if I see a Hulk diving into a bunch of team and just letting himself get hit, I know that he's about to ult. But if I'm playing like Luna Snow or something like that, I know that he's about to do that. I can freeze him out of it, cancel his ult, and get it out of there. So learning other roles and learning what their like tells are for certain things is like probably like the cherry on top to make sure that your gameplay is as good as it can be before actually practicing on the gaming, like the actual gameplay end of it, like aiming and using different combos and that kind of thing. This is all purely like game planned mindset. This is me watching cams. I'm giving call outs that the world has never heard before in my life. This once you kind of have this basic stuff down, it things start to fall into place.